What is up, guys, and welcome back to another Project Borough podcast. I'm once again back with my pal Chris, and we are here, as we always are, to review the latest block of games with the Borough. Of course, looking back at September, and what was an interesting month for the Borough, a month to which our unbeaten run came to an end. We had 5 games in that spell. 1 win, 3 draws, and 1 defeat, of course, against Pompey. So we'll get into that. So 6 points in the last 5 after 12 points from the first 4. Still second in the championship and still on exactly 2 points a game with 18 points from our opening 9 league games. So let's get stuck into it. First of all, Chris, how are you doing? How are you in general? And how are you feeling about the Borough? We were always going to come down after that perfect start, weren't we? But yeah, how are you feeling about things now that we are almost at that magical 10-game milestone?
Yeah, definitely. I think since we last sat down, things were always gonna taper off slightly, weren't they? That was inevitable, wasn't it? It just wasn't sustainable for us to keep getting points at the rate we were getting points at. There was going to be a regression or slowdown at some point. I said 7 points from the last block of fixtures, but we got 6. So we're back to Borough doing that annoying thing of slightly tracking just below my predictions. But although I cannot stand going into the international break off the back of a defeat. You just want the next game to come along. You want a game midweek. You want to get straight back into it. You want to right the wrongs of the game. You want to get 3 points on the board again. I hate stewing on a defeat for 2 weeks. No matter how many games you've been beforehand, it's still not a nice feeling. But we've only lost 1 game. If anyone had said to us at the start of the season that Borough would be in a position where after 9 games we're sitting in second place and have lost just once this season, I think people would have been queuing up to put you in a straitjacket, wouldn't they? So I will take that all day long. Because that is the important context, which is always needed. It's been an excellent start overall. A couple of things a couple of warning signs in these last few fixtures. I thought West Brom, we played quite well. The other games, was it Southampton away? I thought we did okay. Great resolve to come back in that game and get the draw. Stoke, we weren't helped by a diabolical referee, were we? Absolutely diabolical. I'd say he was blind, but it'd be disrespectful to blind people, for that penalty decision first half. I mean, even Matt Robbins himself after the game said, they got lucky with that one. Should have been a penalty. But, second half, they were by far the better team. So you're coming out of that game thinking, not really fancying Portsmouth at the weekend. And yeah, Portsmouth, we just didn't get going at all. So yeah, there's been a bit of a slowdown, but I'm still confident that if we've got these results and we're sat in second and things haven't clicked at all for us in the final third, what potentially can we do when it finally does click? So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, we'll get on to the front 3. That is the hottest topic at the moment, I would say, around Borough. But yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you've said. I think it's easy to maybe get caught up in the recency bias of us losing the last game and then having 2 weeks to sit on it, and it can bring you down a little bit. But I feel like, yeah, when you take a step back, 1 defeat in 9, as you say, still very, very good. We're still at 2 points a game. Doesn't matter how you get there. If you track at 2 points a game, all is well for promotion in my eyes. Obviously, we have dropped off. You said 7 points. I said 9. I thought we'd get 3 wins. I went for a win away to Preston. Obviously, we did end up needing a very late equaliser to get a point from that one. We both got the West Brom performance correct. And Borough did actually do better than what we both expected at Southampton. We both had defeats down at St Mary's. It was the 2 games that followed after that. We both thought we'd beat Stoke, which we didn't. that was a 50-50 game, wasn't it? We had a good first half. We could have had the game in our control. Stoke, to their credit, come back into it second half and with a better side from there on in, so it was a fair result. We did both, though, predict a defeat away to Pompey, and I think looking back, that might have seemed like a brave prediction at the time from both of us. But I always looked at Pompey and I just thought, second trip down the south coast in 7 days, Fratton Park, and I just felt like by that point maybe we would start to just drop a little bit. And I don't know about you, but do you think there is some truth in that result was kind of coming? I mean, I didn't really feel the emotion from it because I was on holiday, so I was glad. Well, I say glad I missed it. I still found a way of watching it. Paid £10 to watch it, but it felt like. Is it fair to say it felt like it was kind of coming? Maybe it was a result we needed because, as you say, we just about scraped a draw at Southampton. Didn't create much there. Stoke was here or there, and then obviously Pompey was a leggy performance. So do you think it was coming, and maybe it could actually be a blessing that we've got that first defeat out the way?
Yeah, it did feel like it was coming to me because the Southampton game, yeah, they're a decent side. I know they've not really clicked yet, but nearly everything they created was down to us and our misplaced passing and stuff like that. Stoke, like I said, first half I thought we did okay. Second half I would say we were awful. But they were good. Mark Robbins is just kryptonite to Middlesbrough, isn't he? The only time we managed to beat the guys when Stoke were absolutely horrendous last season. Any other time, he's at our number. Half-time change from him was fantastic. And there was only going to be one team second half who won that game. So I was relieved when the final whistle went.
Putting Thomas
I
on
said,
Silvera as well. That was a
yeah,
key.
yeah, yeah. And then walking away from the ground, I'm thinking, like you've said there, second trip to the South Coast in a week. It's not really a great time to do that. And I made the trip down to Portsmouth, the longest trip that we'll do this season, potentially. And I
Yeah,
came
tell us
away
about it.
from that. Well, annoyingly, this was the only game that we've had this season where I came away thinking there's pretty much nothing to be positive about because we were rubbish. I know Fratton Park's a tough place to go to, but let's be honest, they're not a good team. We didn't give their keeper anything to do whatsoever. I know their goal was their only shot on target, and for me was a keeper error. But the issue wasn't. I don't know. It's one of those where defensively, I thought we were pretty solid. It's just how poor we were in the final third. Everything sort of kind of worked until it got that final third, and then, I mean, I'm not fantastic with tactics. There's another podcast which you may or may not be on, which is far better for dissecting tactics and analysis and that kind of thing. But for me, it looked at times that Portsmouth were happy just to stay in central blocks, let our wide players have the ball, knowing that there wasn't a great deal we could do to hurt them. And I think I saw stats saying Borough were bottom for completed crosses in the whole division, which, if that's true, is a bit concerning considering the way Rob Edwards likes to play is with wing backs and wide players getting the ball in the box. So if we can't really do that very well, that's not a great sign for us in the final third. We just didn't. Like I said, we just didn't create anything. We were so poor, and I think it was sort of summed up by that shot from Aidan Morris in the second half. It was just at that moment you knew no matter what we did, we just weren't going to score. So it was a very disappointing result. I'd say in context, I said either in this position and this points tally at the end. Fortunately, I was staying at a holiday park down there, so at least I got to see some entertainment on the evening and have a few beers there and not just jump in the car and drive 6 hours back to Teesside like many poor folk did, or several people who I know who their train from Fratton to London was cancelled and they didn't get back till 2 in the morning. So there is that for positives. So, yeah, a few concerns with what we've seen in the final third, but overall, I think there's a lot to be positive about with this team.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it at the top. There's more to come from Borough, and I think that's the key. I think if we'd hit our ceiling and peaked, you'd maybe be a little bit worried. But I think there's still a lot to work out and learn about Borough, and I think when we hopefully do that, we will see the better of this team. And I still feel like we're nowhere near seeing the full potential of it, especially going forward. And I do like what we're seeing defensively, and we'll get onto pros in a minute, but Yeah, I think looking at the run of games, looking back, Preston, they have remained strong at home. So that is a fantastic point, regardless, I think, looking back on it. And I think a win over West Brom, they've dropped off, but at the time I thought was an outstanding result. I agree with you. I think getting 2 points from Southampton and Stoke isn't bad because I think Stoke are doing really well and Southampton have a very good squad. Pompey was the only result from that five I can say I was massively disappointed in, even though we weren't perfect in the other games and yet we looked a bit blunt going forward. I thought we were playing a good team, and you mentioned Stoke. I think they're an example. You sometimes have to just respect the opposition and what they do and how they change a game. And we're not going to have it all of our own way. Many times we've changed the game and reaped the rewards, and Stoke did that. And the best part about that game for me was that we still come out of it with a point. You know, Previously we might have lost that game, and for me that's still absolutely fine. But of the three games we had in that week before the international break, I think Pompey were the worst of the three teams we played, and we lost. That was the game we lost, and that was the disappointing thing for me. That was the most winnable of the three games, and I just felt like we just didn't turn up, did we? We were just really poor in possession, and it did bring up a slight concern that I guess we've touched upon a little bit, but we've not had enough evidence to really discuss it, and that is what will this Borough team do when a team sits in front of us and says, right, break us down? And we didn't really ever look like we were going to break them down. And you mentioned a good start. The crossing one is a concern because that's a big part of what should be our attacking arsenal. And then, yeah, the front three is not quite working yet, which we'll get onto in a bit. So yeah, overall, I think for a 5 game spell, yeah, I wouldn't say the performances were bad at all up until the Portsmouth game. We did play some good teams in that run, and we were never going to maintain a 100% record, and we are still up there, which is important. But it did come at a very, very good time for us. What would be your biggest pros to take away from the 5 games? Then, we had nothing but pros coming on for the first 4 games, of course. But is there any things that you're still really happy about after them that 5 game run, or is there anything new that you've began to love about this team? What pros did you take from that?
Just how defensively solid we are. I know things aren't going great in the attacking third, but it's looking like we won't need to score that many goals to win football matches because we just look solid at the back. Like I said, Portsmouth's only shot on target, and for me it was a keeper error. It's in the back of the net. So you're thinking there, okay, we've restricted them to one shot on goal, so defensively solid there. Again, Southampton, I thought all the chances we gave them were as a result of our misplaced passing, etc. So they didn't carve us open particularly. Stoke, yeah, setting out they did create some decent chances, but then you got to think, that's without several defensive options that we should have had. So on another day, Silvera's not at right back. Dale Fry starts the game, so Edmondson went off. So there is mitigating circumstances in that one. We conceded against West Brom, but again, I think that was a keeper error on that one. He's in no man's land. The ball goes in. So on another day, that's a clean sheet. So even when you look at the goals you've conceded, you're thinking there's not many times at all where teams have carved us open. So defensively, I think there's a lot of positives there. Again, the substitutions, the game management's a lot better. It was one of those where I don't think people still appreciate quite as much now because at the start of the season, Rob Edwards literally had the maddest touch, didn't he? Where every player he brought on would either score or assist. It was ridiculous at one point. Even when he brought Matt Targett on at half time against Sheffield United, he got the assist for Tommy Conway. Say brought Bergs on against Millwall, scored. He just brought Hansen on. He got the assist. Just every sub he made was just golden. So that was going to end at some point. He can't do that all season. So he's still making changes at good points in the game. It's not always having the desired effect, but you're never going to have a 100% record with substitutions, are you? So there's still plenty there to be positive about. But yeah, it's just one of those, isn't it? We just need to stop picking up these injuries, which have plagued us all last season as well. And yeah, there's still plenty of positives for me.
Yeah, I agree. The defense was my main takeaway from that run of games. For me, I think a top defense gets you promoted. A top attack necessarily doesn't. And that's the big difference for me. You can have the greatest attack in the world, but if you're shipping in just as many goals, it really doesn't matter. Whereas you do take so much pressure off of yourself if your defense is really, really good. And you mentioned a couple of occasions there, where our defense gave us a chance. I thought Solbrin was outstanding against Stoke, made some outstanding saves. And yeah, it was a great finish from Adam Armstrong to get a goal against us against Southampton, and Pompey had their only shot on target. So I do feel like our XG against is an incredibly promising stat at the moment. We have the best in the championship, which is really, really promising. 7.2 is our expected goals against, which is the best in the championship. So I think if you keep that up across the season, I think we inevitably will be up there because all three sides that went up last season had a fantastic goals against. And I think I remember seeing a stat that on average teams that get promoted concede no less than or no more than 40 goals. So I think that's a really good platform to have. And I think it's promising that we've seen a couple of changes in defence, and that still seems like a really strong part of our team. It seems like it's just drilled into the way we're set up regardless of personnel. So as long as we're not absolutely wiped out with defensive injuries, which we nearly were at one point, it looked like we were going to lose them all at once. I think when we went into that Stoke game, I was thinking, here we go. I do think we'll give ourselves a chance in every game. I think when you've got a defense that strong, and it's a case of building from there. And I think one big thing is making sure the midfield it continues to be effective. I think that's something that we've maybe again seen a slight drop off. Hackney and Morris have not been able to maintain their incredibly high standards from the first four games, which is natural. So maybe, we there's no harm in bringing an Alan Brown in for a game or two. I think we've got that option there now, but there is definitely a difference or a drop off, I would say, when Hackney and Morris aren't at it, and when teams sort of nullify them. So I'm hoping that that's not a real area of weakness for us and one that we're too over reliant on. But yeah, you look at it and you think 2/3 of the team is pretty set. It's just that front three, isn't it, that we need to sort out. And hopefully, once that happens, our XG numbers can increase. We'll start scoring more goals, and then you're the perfect team, right? Because that's what Coventry are at the moment. They've got the second best XG against. They're right behind us defensively, and they're also, I think, right at the top of the league. So they're doing it perfectly at both ends of the pitch, and I think we can be that if we just sort out what we do up front. So, any other reasons to be positive, or should we move on to a couple of things that have maybe popped up that we need to work on?
Go on, we'll move on to the other side of the coin.
Yeah. Well, the other side of the coin is offensively, isn't it? Because for all that Borough actually have the eighth best attack on paper, which is crazy. We've scored the eighth most goals in the league. You think, oh yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty good. There has been an overperformance there because we have the third worst XG in the championship. Now, as much as I know people will be commenting utter woke nonsense, XG this, XG that, all this nonsense, you can't overperform to this level up front having an XG like an XG that's bottom three. It just can't happen, can it? I don't mind us having a top 10, top half. That's fine for me. I think you can overperform from there and still be fine. But is there a concern that we are not quite creating enough for a side that's aspiring for promotion? We can't have numbers that low, can we?
No. I think this is the problem, isn't it? Where everything in the team, to me, is working pretty much as it should do at the moment. So, goalkeeper, defence, midfield, set pieces, substitutions, that's all working great at the minute. The one part of our game which just isn't working is the forward line. And I don't think Rob Edwards knows what his best front three is. And if it's any consolation, I don't think the fans do either. I think if you were to stand in the fan zone before the game, ask 100 Borough fans, who's our best front three, and in what order would you put them in? I think you'd struggle to get a majority of people who said the same thing. So yeah, it's something he needs to do. We need to find a formula that works for him. He needs to find what works best, what gives us the best blend. I'm not sure myself what that is. All I know for certain is that it's not Tommy Conway as a number 10. We've seen this last season under Michael Carrick when Carrick tried to accommodate Lat and Conway in the same team, so he dropped Conway at the 10. It just doesn't work. I'm not faulting his work rate, his effort, endeavour, etc., but it just doesn't work. So for me, you got to get your two natural 10s in there and find who you want to be your number 9 and go from there, because at the minute that's the one thing, it's just not quite clicking, and there's a lot of changes, isn't there? Like someone will start the game and come off at half time, and then they'll impress, and then they'll start the next game. It won't quite click, and they'll come off at half time in that game, and yeah, it's very stop start at the minute, and I think we possibly need a little bit of continuity up there. And like I said, especially when I'm looking forward now. Friday's a tough game, but I'm looking now at Chef Wed and Wrexham, two teams who don't defend great. Thinking I'd love us to name the same front three in both those matches and really go for it, because at the minute it's not very clear who is our best front three.
Yeah, well, them two teams you've just mentioned have gave up the most chances in the championship, so their defenses are not great, and that you think would be a really, really good opportunity for our attack to maybe gain a little bit of fluidity and maybe get into the swing a little bit. But you're right about the front three. I I think Conway's completely wasted as a 10. I just do. I think he's got attributes that do work as a 10. He can link play quite well, and I think he is good with the ball at his feet. But I think if you want to get the best out of Tommy Conway, you play him as a 9. It's as simple as that. He was brought in to be a 9. Was it 13 goals he got last season? He'd had two from his first 5 or 6, and then he's been moved into 10, and he's been nowhere near. I don't think he had a single shot against Pompey. So for me, I think with Tommy Conway, he's either a 9 or he's not in the team, or he's not in the 11 at all. And I don't know what you think about this, but I don't know if he's trying to accommodate Conway and Strelets into the same front three. I don't know if he's trying to find a way of playing them both together, and he wants Strelets as the 9. He's almost trying to shoehorn Conway into a 10. I mean, I think it's obvious. I think you just swap them round. You play Strelets deeper, because I think he's such a good technically gifted footballer. We've seen glimpses already when he is involved. His touches are great. His neat little passing is really good. His link up's good, and he can score as well. So I don't see why we don't swap them round, and then that third position in that front three is up for grabs for anybody. So that's where I think that there's got to be a change with them too. Do you think there's any chance or benefit in us playing two strikers up front and maybe one number 10 in behind, maybe a Nipan in behind Strelets and Conway, or would you still think you'd like to stick with the two tens and the one striker up front?
I think the problem we've got is that I think this was an option. I think we did discuss this option when Rob Edwards took over, but I think we both suspected that we would bring in sort of Carlton Morris or Ollie McBurney type striker, because Rob Edwards does like a target man. You've got the ball out wide to the wing backs. He wants them slinging balls in to a target man. We don't really have that, do we? In terms of physical attributes, Conway and Strait are quite similar, aren't they? So we could play with two up front. It could be something we change to, but yeah, I think that's probably an oversight that's been made there. That we don't really have different profile of strikers. For what it's worth, I would play Cali Sen. He'd be the team for me, because he offers something that the others simply don't. That's genuine pace. When you look at the team, we are a physically slow team, which was an issue last season too. Sen can get behind and exploit the spaces teams leave behind. You know, defences would naturally drop off a couple of yards, allows more space for likes of Hackney and Morris to operate in. Whereas when he's not the team, sometimes it feels like everything's played in front of the opposition and it's easy for them because we're just in front of them and we're just knocking it wide. There's no options for us to cross to, so it's coming back central and we're just horseshoeing it at times. So without that target man, I think it's difficult to change too much in in terms of how we create chances. I'd have Sen in there. I'd have Strelec definitely as one of the tens. He's a clever player, operates often those gaps between the centre halves and the full backs, and I think he'd link up well with someone like Sven Neatman, who is just a technically gifted, intelligent player. So I definitely have Strelec and Neatman as the tens, and then it's who do you play up front. I wouldn't be against Tommy Conway playing as the 9, but I would. Every time I've seen Cali Sen, I've been impressed with him. That's it. I think he's 6'2", so he's good physical size. He's got the pace, and his finish against West Brom was really nice finish. So yeah, I would like to see us just pick a front 3, and the next 3 games, let's just go with them and see what we can do. It doesn't have to be. You got to get rest, rotation, and all that. Especially when the Saturday Tuesday games come around. But I think I would like to see us just try and get a bit of continuity now and see if we can nail down who our best 3 are, because you can't have it going on to the next international break where we're still in the same situation, because it's something that is going to hold us back if we can't find our best combination.
No, I agree, and yeah, that's a good point on a physical striker being up front, because I think when he's played 2 up top previously, he has had that big bruiser up front, like a Morris, and I think the
And a
problem with
Bayo.
yeah, and I think the problem with Conway and Strelec so far, I think they've got no chemistry whatsoever. The two of them I feel like they're always trying to operate in the same areas. They want to try and make the same runs. And I feel like if we were to try and play them both up front, it would take time for them to develop a partnership. And I don't know if that partnership would be worth it in the end, but I just don't want us to take the time on them two being a pair. I do very much think it's one or the other. And it does make me think, do you think Tommy Conway is a Rob Edwards striker? Because I remember in pre-season when we were trying to play very direct through bypassing the midfield, we were playing straight into the tens, playing straight into Conway, and he didn't look like he had the physical attributes to play the Rob Edwards way. The only time in pre-season I thought he looked like he fit what we were trying to do was the final pre-season game when we had 2 goals where the wing backs got to the byline, cut it back, and he was a poacher in the right place to tap it home. And I think when he's a poacher in between the box, that's where he works at his best. But I don't know about you, but I've not seen enough evidence yet this season to suggest that he is the kind of striker that Rob Edwards wants. That's why he's probably tried playing him as the 10, which I don't think works either. Now, I love Conway's work rate, and I love his pressing, and he'll chase everything, and I think he's definitely got reasons to be in the team for that. But do you think then there maybe is a chance that his place in the 11 is under massive threat? Because I don't think he is a Rob Edwards striker, and that might bring us back to the argument we made in pre-season about going from transitioning, taking one squad to another, the difference in manager, the difference in style. Is Tommy Conway potentially a casualty of that, do you think?
100%. I'm not convinced that he is a Rob Edwards striker, and that doesn't make him a bad player. If someone gives me a sports car, says, "There you go, Chris, he's a sports car. Was it use this for the next few months?" And I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, fantastic, great." You think, "Yeah, brilliant," but then it's like, "Well, hang on a minute, can't fit the shopping in, can't fit the kids' car seats in." I'm trying to put my suitcases in to go to Centre Parks. I can fit a bit of hand luggage. We can't fit your suitcases in. It doesn't make it a bad car, but it's totally not suited for what I need. Whereas the previous owner just needed to shut his golf clubs in and drive it to the driving range or whatever. It's the same with Conway. It doesn't make him a bad player because he doesn't fit a Rob Edwards system. He was perfect for the Carrick system and how Carrick wanted to play. But in this Rob Edwards way, I'm just not convinced. I'm just thinking, why are you playing him as a 10? There must be a reason why he's playing Strellick and Conway the way around that he is, because you know, what Rob Edwards and Eddie Varvash, they're intelligent people. They've been around the block. They know what they're doing. So you're thinking there must be a reason why you're doing this, because as fans, you sit there thinking this isn't working. So yeah, for me, I'm not convinced that he is the Rob Edwards type striker. That's not me. That's not me saying that he's never going to be, or we can't find a way to put him in the team. But at the minute, I'm just not seeing it. I said I would like us to try something a bit different. Like I said, I'd like to see us try set up there. I know people saying it was Senna. Is Senna 10? Is he a 9? From what I haven't watched much of him at other clubs, but from what I've seen of him, and what I've seen of his stats, apparently he was a number 9 at his previous club, and chipped in with quite a few goals. Not massive numbers, but yeah. I said, and I think he is much closer to the attributes of a Rob Edwards striker than Tommy Conway is. So yeah, I think it is going to be interesting as the weeks progress, who is going to be that number 9, because I think Strellick's better suited to a 10. So then you're thinking, right, okay, for me, is it going to be Strellick, Nipan, and Conway, or is it going to be Strellick, Nipan, and Sen? That's what I'd be looking at anyway. They're the two options of threes I'd be looking at anyway.
Yeah, love the sports car analogy, by the way. That was fantastic. And for anyone who's wondering, Chris does have 4 sports cars in his multi-car garage that he has in his mansion in Wynyard. Trust me, he's got any
Oh,
car
well.
you can imagine, he's got it. He's actually going to the golf club after this, weirdly. But yeah, for me, I think the number 9, it's down to 2 players. It's Sen or Conway. And the more I'm talking about Sen, the more I'm becoming won over by him starting. I think so far there's definitely been an argument that he is a better impact player because that's just the role he's played. And to his credit, he come on. We had he scored a fantastic goal against West Brom. I mean, that team goal was absolutely phenomenal, wasn't it? And then there was a bit of luck to the finish that he got against Southampton, but I think he deserves credit because he struck it into the ground and he gave it a chance instead of just taking a mad swing at it. So I do think with Cali Sen, maybe it's appeared almost like he's a better impact player because that's the role he's played. And yeah, the one time he started against Pompey, it didn't work. But I think the problem with that is when you're playing a team who are sitting so deep, like Portsmouth were, and you've got a striker up front who's quick, he needs space. He needs space to operate and he needs space to run in behind. He needs space to run around defenders. We saw that with Latte Lath at times when teams would sit deep. It's very difficult for that sort of centre forward to be that effective. So maybe with Conway's ability to link play, if we're playing a team who are going to come to the Riverside and sit back, maybe Conway's the player because he will link up as the 9 and maybe bring Strelets and Nipan or whoever else into the game. But I think if we're looking at Ipswich and Leicester away from home and maybe even Birmingham at home as well, I don't think they're teams who are going to come and sit back against Borough. I just don't. And I think that's where you stick Sen up front and you just get him in behind because there'll be space. And I think he could absolutely terrorise them because he's got pace, he's got strength, he's a pressing machine. I think he is much more suited to what Rob Edwards wants. But there will be games where I do think Conway will still play a part. But I think I did think at one point he was the guaranteed 9. And I thought, Sen's just back up, he'll be competition. But I actually think already I'm more for Sen starting than Conway at the moment. And that's credit to Sen, I guess. And a shame for Conway. But they're the two who I think should jostle for the 9. And I think there should only be one number 9 because, as you say, we don't have that physical alternative. And I just can't see Conway and Sen working up top. I can't see Strelets or Conway working up top at all. And then it's in behind, isn't it? You mentioned Strelets and Nipan. Are they the two you're set on being in behind? Because I think for me, they're the two I would definitely have in behind Sen or Conway.
I'd certainly have. I think it's one of those. It's hard on Panezi because he's such a young player. Is I don't think he's someone going to see start Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. I'd be very surprised if we've seen that. But I think it depends who the nine is. So I say if Sen's the nine, then I'd be quite happy to have Deepan and Strelec in there as the tens. If it's Conway and then Strelec as the 10, you look at your 10, you're thinking, right, do we need some pace in there? That's when you're thinking, okay, do we need to bring Hansen in there? Do we need to bring Whitaker in there so he's a bit quicker? I don't know. Like you said there, it's very game dependent, isn't it? And I think that's quite. I think that's just where the game's going now, isn't it? I think gone are the days where it's one of those where it's like, right, this is our 11. We'll play it every week. As much as you always have a best 11 for your big games, don't you? I think the days of going 3 game weeks and seeing the same team, you don't really see it now, do you? Especially with the amount of games footballers are playing now, there's a real emphasis now on keeping players fresh. So I think, like you said, if we're playing someone at home who we think are going to sit back deep, then yeah, there's not much point playing Sen because he's just struggling to get through the lines until we take the lead, perhaps, and then the other team has to come out and the game opens up. Whereas if we're playing a team who we think are going to come here and have a go at us, then yeah, you start them. So yeah, it's one of those where at the minute it's one of those as a coach you want options, don't you, to play? It's nice to have options. It's one of those where it's just better, isn't it, to have these options when they're all doing well. Like everyone's in form. You thinking, oh, he's scoring goals, he's getting assists. Oh, who do I pick? At the minute, it's kind of the opposite, where it's like we've got good players here, but none of them are really in form. So you're kind of thinking, all right, okay, you're trying to find a formula, aren't you? You're trying to see which players have those connections, and it might be a combination that none of us have said already. Perhaps Hansen's in there as one of the tens, and Conway's a nine or something like that. Because sometimes it's that's just how football works. That you stumble across a formula and it just works. So yeah, it is going to be interesting to sit here in maybe a month's time, and like I said, it might be something completely different to what we suspect it's going to be.
Yeah, sometimes you stumble across the best things by accident, don't you? And maybe it'll take an injury or
Yeah,
something, but you just don't
yeah.
know what
Like
might happen.
Neto Borges at centre half last season.
Yeah, and now he's not here. That's how it can
Yeah,
That's how it can
yeah.
change. But no, I agree on Strelitz and Nipan, I think, but great options to have, as you say, when we need the squad. I guess the options in behind are Hansen and Whitaker. Hansen, I think he still serves as an impact player for me. I can see why Sen would warrant a start because he scored 2 goals in two, and it would have felt harsh probably him not starting for Pompey, even though I you know, maybe we weren't to have known 100% how deep Pompey were to set up. So maybe after starting Sen, there's hindsight there, and you think, yeah, maybe it wasn't the right idea tactically, but he warranted that start. Hansen, I wouldn't say quite warrants the start yet. I was surprised he started. I think he still has a role as an impact player, and I think he's proven to be a very, very good impact player, and I'm very happy for him to be in that position. And I think all the forwards have sort of showed glimmers of what they can offer and where they might end up. The one who hasn't, and this I guess is a talking point from the last 5 games, it was straight after the last international break. We were there at Preston. Obviously, it's died down now, but we may as well just quickly touch upon it. Morgan Whittaker and the conundrum that is Morgan Whittaker, because the treatment at Preston was wrong on every level, and I completely condemn that. I thought it just doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody, and no one wins in that situation. So I was really happy to see the support he kind of got off the fans and the fan base when we were at the Stoke home game. But still, we're still waiting to work out exactly where he fits, what he's going to bring, what he can offer. And I mean, at this point, he's probably at the bottom of the pile, isn't he? You've got a £6 million player there we brought in January who's probably, well, unless you want to count Alex Gilbert, Micah Hamilton, and the players who are right on the fringes. But in terms of them potential starters, we're still not seeing it from Morgan Whittaker, are we? So where do you stand on him at the moment? Because there's only so long you can give a player. As much as I'm willing him to do well and supporting him, and I want him to just get that moment and that goal, we don't look any closer to seeing it, do we?
No, he's had his chance. And he's simply not taking it. So for me, like you said, he goes to the back of the line in terms of starting games. I was, I was at Preston as well. I certainly didn't boo that out because it's one of those, isn't it? As I said at the time, who does that benefit? It doesn't help the player, it doesn't help the manager. The manager's then got a job to lift him, doesn't help the rest of the team. Causes division amongst the fans. It doesn't help anyone. So, I'm absolutely against booing anyone who's wearing that Boro's shirt. But if we're being honest, he just hasn't done it. Hasn't performed. Um, we keep waiting for it to click. He is one of those who we did discuss, didn't we, when Rob Edwards was appointed? We looked at him thinking, where does he fit into a Rob Edwards system? My only hope is that, with him, he naturally likes being on the right hand side, cutting on his left foot. So I was thinking, right, if we can get Britain high up the pitch, does that then give space for Whittaker to move inside onto his left foot and get a goal? But when he has done that, his finishing's just not been good enough. I don't think he's creative enough to be in one of those number 10 roles. He's very much head down, get inside and shoot. So it's difficult for me to see how Whittaker establishes himself in the team. I hope I'm wrong, and he starts banging goals in left, right, and centre. But I think it's a long road back for him now, and I struggle to see where he gets in the team because he had that chance, didn't he, before Nipan got established, before Strellick got established. That was his opportunity to say, "Well, this is my shirt. If you want my place in the team, then you have to play bloody well because I'm producing. I'm bringing the goods in, and he just hasn't. So yeah, difficult to see how he gets in the team.
Yeah, I agree. It's a real shame. And even Bergsorg, I can kind of see how he could come on and be a hold up player later on in games. I can still see a role to which he could offer something, although again, he wouldn't be anywhere near my starting 11. But
He's
yeah,
got a knack for a goal, though, hasn't he, Bergzorg?
yeah, he does. And he can produce a moment, whereas Whitaker just we haven't seen it yet. It's a real shame. And again, maybe it will take an injury or a moment in a game, a late winner, or anything that he just happens to get on the end of that sparks a run of form or gives him that moment. But I feel like we've been saying that for months, and there comes a point where you've got to maybe start then thinking this just isn't going to work. So we still remain hopeful that when needed, he will still play a part, step up and offer us something. But I guess it's good to see that we've got other players who've come in and I guess are already well established and are better suited to what we need. The final point I want to just quickly make as well is an interesting one. We switched to a back four, and you could say some of that was down to injuries. Maybe it was enforced because Britain cut his foot, and we are quite light at right wing back. But it was weird because in pre season, I heard whispers that the plan was for us to always operate with a back four. And it seemed like that was the plan recruitment wise as well before Edwards realised pre-season, no, we're gonna go with a three, which made sense because that's what he's always done. However, since then he has mentioned in press conferences that we might still end up as a four, and that was initially the plan. So where do you stand on that? Because Borough's defence is pretty solid, and I like the back three. I think it gives us a really solid base. Some say that maybe it's too defensive because then we might have 8 defensive players on the pitch as opposed to maybe 7. But yeah, back four could that be something that we do revert to? Because Edwards seems like he is very very open to Borough going back to being a team with a back four. So interesting, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to see where we'd go with that. It might be dictated by defensive numbers. It's frustrating that I'm not saying for a moment it's their fault or anything like that, but the 3 players who were injured all the time last season, Dale Fry, Darrell Lenihan, George Edmondson, are the same 3 players who were injured this season, and they all play in the same position, centre half. So yeah, it's not one of those where like one's a midfielder, one's a striker, one's a defender. No, they're all centre halves. So that leaves us with a problem, doesn't it? So when we saw, I think is Edmondson probably going to be out for a month or so. I'm guessing with his hamstring. Lenahan, we don't know. It's just suck it and see with that one, isn't it? And Taylor Fry's back, but for how long? Because we know what Taylor Fry. And again, this isn't me criticising him, but bless me, he just can't stay fit for a prolonged period of time. So if Dale Fry was to go down again, we'll be back to skeleton numbers, aren't we? At the back, you're talking Luke Ayling and Jones at the back. Yeah, we would probably have to revert to four, and that would probably involve Britain and Target being your fullback, your fullbacks. But then you don't have much cover for them, do you? Silvera, I don't think he could play full back in the back four. Alan Brown, maybe is he back up right back? Again, it's not great, is it? When you look at it and think, yeah, I understand the reasoning for letting Neto Borges out. I think Rob Edwards said, look, we have to think about the person. It's not very nice for him to be sat on the bench or not in the squad. He just wants it because he wants to play football. So I get the reasons for why we loaned him out, but I even thought at the time, I said, when we've got three injury-prone centre halves and we're playing a system that relies on three centre halves, you are taking a risk. You are taking a risk doing that. So I think four is something at the back that we could see at some point in the next month or so, but I think it'll probably be enforced by injuries. And we would have to sort of work it out there. Maybe that's where Whitaker comes back into the team as a inverted winger, something like that. So, but then we're stuck with tens then. So where would a knee pan fit? Where would a Strelak fit? You could probably play one of them on the left. Would you play Bergzorg, something like that there? So I think it's an option there, but I said it's only something I see happening in case of emergencies.
Yeah, I like it as an option. As a backup, I still would want us to stick with the three. I think we've seen that we've changed to a four because of other factors. I don't think we've decided to do it tactically for any given reason as such. So I'd like us to stick with the back three. As I said, I'm not massively for or bothered by us being a fluent attacking force. I'd obviously love us to score goals and be nice on the eye, but I would much prefer us to be solid and have that foundation first and foremost. And I think the back three has proven to give us that. But obviously, as you said, we have centre backs that you can't rely on staying fit, and I would very much expect Fry to have a spell on the sidelines again at some point. Edmondson probably as well. Lenahan, we don't even know. So yeah, I can see us still wrestling with this centre back injury issue that we've had all season, probably until Malanda comes in, and that might then ease it off a little bit. Um, so yeah, I'd stick with a five, but it's good again to have that option, and that's the one thing I've noticed about Borough this season. We do have, I mean, the amount of times in games I've seen us change system formation to try and find an answer in a game, whether it's to shear it up and manage a game or try and unlock the door and score a goal, which is really good. So yeah, good to have them options. Definitely would stick with a back three if we can help it. Anything else you want to mention from the the last 5 games, or are you willing and are you ready to once again, as we do at the end of every pod, stick our neck on the block and predict the next 6 fixtures as it happens?
After that long drive back from Portsmouth, I'm more than happy just to move on, look forward to the next six.
Well, let's have a look at the next 6 then. It feels like no matter what fixtures Borough have, they just seem to always look difficult. Maybe that's just the
Yeah,
championship. I don't
I was
know.
thinking that when I was looking at them.
Yeah, like the first 4, I thought, God, that's a tough start. Let's get them out the way. Then I looked at the last block we had. I thought, bloody hell, they look difficult. Get that block out the way. I do think this block probably is the easiest of the 3 we've had so far, but that is probably not even an advantage because it's Borough, right? So, yeah, we've been up and down. We're still yet to nail our predictions. I think, like everyone, under predicted Borough in the first four because no one expected us to get 100% points, 12 from 12. However, we both got a little bit too excited, me especially, and predicted us to get too many points in the last block. You were close. You were 1 point more. A draw at Pompey, and you'd have come on here proud as punch, and I'd have been asking you for the lottery numbers. But what do we think about the next six then? Because we've got Ipswich at home coming up very, very shortly in a matter of days. Then we have trips. We have a trip to Sheffield Wednesday, who will be boycotting that game, or at least there is a plan for them to boycott that game. So there might be more Borough fans there at Hillsborough than there is Sheffield Wednesday fans. So that's an opportunity, you'd have to say. Then we've got another winnable game, Wrexham at home, giving up the most chances so far in the Championship before trips quickly, back-to-back trips at Watford and Leicester. Then we finish this six-game run of games at home to Birmingham before, thank goodness, the final international break of this year. So, first of all, your thoughts on the fixtures and give me your predictions. As always, we've not discussed this. We have no idea what each other has predicted. So your thoughts on this run of games, and then I guess just let me know how many points and what you think the results will be.
Well, while you were talking there, I was just looking there, and if my predictions, what I've done so far, were what actually happened, would be sat in 10th place, 2 points off the playoffs, which I had took at the start of the season. So yeah. So it's not been all bad. So yeah, look at this next six games. So Ipswich at home, very tough game, isn't it? They're not great on the road, but it feels like they're just starting to click for me. I still think they'll win the league. They're just one of those sides who I think will just go on a mad run, win 8 on the bounce, and people look at the table and think, how did they get up there? I've seen some of the recent highlights of their games, and like the Philogene are looking very good. Obviously, there's a certain Mr. Akpom who'll probably be on the bench for them. Who, yeah, if the game's at deadlock, we just know, don't we? He's going to be coming on with 20 minutes to go. I think we're probably going to come up short in that game. I think we're probably going to lose on Friday. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but so yeah, I've got us down for a defeat for that one. Sheffield Wednesday, terrible team, terrible form. So let's be honest, they're nailed on for relegation. They've just lost 5-0 to Coventry. The home fans are boycotting. This has all the ingredients for a typical Borough match, doesn't it?
There it is.
It just does. However, I will be among I believe it's 3,900 Borough fans going out for that one. So yeah, I am backing us to get the 3 points in that one. Wrexham at home, the Hollywood fixture. Will Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney be in the pig iron before the game? Will it be eating a Palmona bun for the Disney Plus cameras? Who cares, to be honest? They can't defend for their lives, can they? So I'm going to go for us to win that one and finally click in the final third.
Okay.
So 6 points on the board there. Watford away, the Rob Edwards derby. I think it'll be a tough game. I think we'll get a draw there. Leicester away, again, tough place to go. They do have some quality. This is the one I struggle with the most. I'm going to go for a narrow defeat, and if we get any more on that, I'll be happy. And then Birmingham at home. There's an element of their fan base that have a huge sense of entitlement. They thought that this season would be a walk in the park. Not all of them. To be fair, I've had a few conversations with Birmingham fans who hate that element of the fan base too. But I guess that's what celebrity ownership and money does to some people. So for that reason, I really hope we do get one over on them, and I think we will. I'm going to go for us to win that one. So I've got us for 10 points for a possible 18. Which I know people won't like me constantly referencing Sunderland, but hey, they are the benchmark from last season, and they are what I'm hoping that we can emulate. And as annoying as it is that it's them, they were secure in the playoffs almost all season. They had lots of margin forever, never looked at all like they were going to drop out the playoffs, and that's what I'm hoping that. I know some people will have changed their target for us this season from surviving relegation to automatic promotion. But as predictions were going at the start of the season, but my goal at the start of the season was playoffs. My goal is still playoffs, and the start of the season for me has just meant that all I'm hoping for now is that it's helped us just help us get in the playoffs a bit more, the journey a bit nicer, a bit smoother, smooth out the bumps, just so nice and secure. So if we can get 10 points from this next 6 games, that'll put us on 28 points, which will be just 3 points behind where Sunderland were, and they were top at that stage last season. So we will be tracking roughly where I want us to be. So yeah, 10 points from 18 for me.
Yeah, and that would have us on 28 points after 15, so it's just under 2 points a game. And I'm like you, I'm not getting carried away and suddenly thinking, right, what do we have to do to get promoted via top 2? Because I just still think that's just ridiculously ambitious. I can't see that. So I'm like you. I want us to just get into the playoffs and make it as drama free as humanly possible, and you do that by just banking up as many points as you can. There was a reason why I was sort of giggling to myself a little bit while you were listing your predictions. As I said, we do not disclose our predictions to each other before we podcast, and I'm going to say one word: snap.
Oh.
I've predicted not only 10 points, every single result. I've said the same as you. I kid you not. I had a loss at home to Ipswich. Again, I just think off the back of a defeat, I think they are clicking, and Philogene is pretty much scoring from everywhere. I do feel like that will be a narrow defeat. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I think we'll compete. I did have back-to-back wins against Sheffield and Wrexham. As we've mentioned, 2 of the worst defences in the league in terms of giving up chances. A great opportunity for us, as you say, to get something going in the final third and get some goals for Strelets, Nipan, Sen, Conway, and get that attacking trio really, really moving. I also did predict a draw at Watford because I feel like Vicarage Road's one of them where I don't know. It's a bit like Pompey. I look at it and I never feel all that confident. And I think it's just one of them where you take a point. We could quite easily win that game, to be honest with you. But I played it safe with a point, and I also did predict a defeat at Leicester. And I think they've surprised me a little bit. I think given where they're at, they've done quite well, to be fair to them. Now, I think they are still expecting a points deduction. So I don't know how that might psychologically affect them when that may drop and when they get it. But I think they've done pretty well, and they might continue to just get better. So yeah, King Power, tough. So I went with a defeat, and then I put a win at home to Birmingham because I just feel it. I feel like we'll win that one. They're not, and I don't know if they're not as good as we thought. I think there was so much hype around them pre-season. Maybe people were getting, and me included, were getting caught up in it a little bit. They've not been that good going forward at all. And that now looks like a winnable game for me at home. I think if it's at St Andrews, it's tough. But at home, I think it's winnable. And plus, a bit like you, they're a team I am rather enjoying seeing lose a little bit. They're like the hate watch team you enjoy to see struggle because, as you say, they've just come into the league arrogant, expecting to do this, that, and the other. And I would love us to beat them at the Riverside. So, yeah, we've miraculously snapped completely on the next 6 games. Can you believe it? Some people will start thinking we share notes pre-pod. That is not the case.
No. Must be using the same AI chatbot to generate the results.
Exactly. And you mentioned what do you say we'd be on if your predictions had come true? You'd be 2 points outside the playoffs. Was that? Did you say?
If my predictions to this point had been correct, we'd have been 2 points 2 points away from the playoffs.
Right. Okay. Because did you go with 4 points like me in the first block, or did you predict more?
6, I think it was 6. Was it?
Six. So you went six
I'm not sure.
and 6 and 9.
6? Can't remember.
Um.
I thought it was
Yeah.
6.
I went 4 in the first block and then 9. So 13 points is what I'd have had us on, which is just outside the playoffs as well by 2 points. So we're probably tracking similarly across the whole season. And then we predicted 10 points, which would put us on 23 if me and you were predicting, which I still think would be a good.
No, I think about it. I think I probably did put 4 from 4, but yeah, because I think we probably put the same for that one. I think it was only the last block of fixtures where we were different, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
possibly. But
we need to write these down, don't we?
yeah, we will. We'll write them down, and maybe at the end of the season we can tally up how many points we would have predicted Borough to have and see how far off we actually were. But well, there we go. We'll be back. Well, during the next international break to see if both of us equally, once again, underpredicted Borough, and we got more points than 10. That would be nice. Or if, God forbid, we've been a little bit too optimistic once again and Borough track beneath that 10-point mark. We'll have to wait and see. But that is it. So, Chris, thank you very much for jumping on and joining me for this review of Borough's September. And as I say, there will still continue to be previews and reviews of every single game between now and then. There'll be a preview of Ipswich coming up as well. And there might be a vlog for Chef Wed. I'm going to that game as well. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, I don't break my glasses like I did at Preston and I can actually see the game. I'll be wearing contacts. But yeah, if you've enjoyed the video, hit a like on the video, subscribe for more, comment below your thoughts on the podcast, your predictions for the next 6 games, and which sports car you think Chris owns in the comment section below. And of course, as always, you can listen to these on your chosen podcast providers if you prefer. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and listening. And we'll see you all in the next one.
Up the Borough.
Up the Borough and the Bocker.